In this video I'll try to beat Skyrim with only apocalypse spells. Like these, and these. Apocalypse is a mod and you can find it in the description. So, let's get started. I begin my journey and I choose a high elf because of the magic regeneration and the extra magicka they have. In Helgen I can't do anything. There are 155 new spells, but I don't know any of them. Because my starting spells are the same and I couldn't find one around. So I let Ralph do the killing. I get out and I head to the Riverwood Trader, but he doesn't have any apocalypse spells in stock. So I proceed with the main quest while ignoring every enemy until I reach the Jarl and the person I'm actually interested in, his Curse Mage. I buy Crackle, a spell that shocks an enemy and summons a cloud charged with lightning over their head. No, it's not as cool as you probably imagined it, it's like this. This spell maybe isn't the best looking, but it's good enough to let me make my way through Bleakfall's Barrow. I shock all the bandits I can find and I have to fight the big spider. After a bit of kiting I defeat it and I can proceed. Now it's time to ignore everyone and reach the boss of the dungeon. I managed to stack a good amount of clouds over his head and he falls. So far, so good. I get back to the Jarl and he tells me that I have to defend the city from a dragon. But first I try out some more spells. One lets me summon a minion that has 150% the statistics of the last enemy that killed it. And if I got that right, this sounds insane, meaning that he could have easily thousands of HP if a dragon kills it. The other spell is Creeping Cold. It's a frost ray that damages enemies and after 6 seconds it freezes them. It sounds tame, but if I am able to keep an enemy frozen, I should be able to defeat everyone in a one-on-one combat. Speculations aside, I head towards the dragon, and I guess the guards were on steroids because we absolutely annihilated it. It wasn't even a fight. It's either this or the spells are broken. I get back to the Curse Mage and I can buy some more spells. One is a spell that explodes when hit with a frost spell. The other one is completely useless, but it's my favorite one so far. It does something that nobody even dreamed of in a vanilla Skyrim experience. It raises a wall. It cannot block doorways and you can only summon it near you. You obviously cannot cast spell through it and when you stop casting it, it disappears. So it's basically useless. And yet I spent at least 20 minutes raising walls in the city. I don't know why, but it's fun. 10 out of 10. Best mod in the game. Now I go and meet the Greybirds, but there is no magic here, so I cut it short. I have to retrieve a horn for them, so I go into a dungeon and I start blasting. Turns out that the spells I just bought are basically a waste of mana. So I use Creeping Cold and now we can see that the freezing effect is actually really well done. I guess it didn't work on the dragon, but that's reasonable. Here it's becoming clear that the rest of the run will be me running from enemies that can one-shot kill me while I wait for my magicka to regenerate. I managed to push through by singling out enemies or simply ignoring them. As usually, I jump down the dungeon, I proceed, and I die a couple of times against the spiders, that for some reason are the most dangerous thing around. I can defeat them if I don't act like an idiot, and I discover that the horn isn't there because someone stole it. I meet the thief, she gives me the horn, and we go kill a dragon together. Before doing that, I try to enter the College of Winterhold to learn some more juicy spells, but I have to use a spell from the vanilla game to join them, and I can't do it. I remember that there is a way to join them by shouting, that is mandatory in many sections of the run, so I consider it less of a rule infringement. So I try to give the horn back to the Greybirds and see if now she will let me through, but I can't do it yet. I decide to give up on that idea for now and I go to the dragon site with Delphine. I bought a new spell for this fight, it's called Inferno and it's quite interesting. First you have to cast it using both hands and some magicka. After that you equip a special version of the Ember Bolt spell in both hands for 15 seconds. You still have to use magicka to cast it though. It deals a good amount of damage and we make quick work of the dragon. Now I have to infiltrate an embassy, because Delphine feels like the Thalmor are behind everything bad that has ever happened to Tamriel. And she's probably right. I get inside with a disguise and I have a new spell that damages enemies and teleports them back for a short distance. Here I start to have the first problems, because there are mages that can block my spells and damage my magicka. So I actually have to use my brain during the fight. I have to reset a couple of times in the courtyard, I ditch all my other spells and start using only Creeping Cold because if I manage to survive 6 seconds, I can basically kill every enemy. Inside the building I have a small problem, because this mod is actually well done, I'm not the only one gaining new spells, but every enemy can use them too. Meaning that the mage here summons a Dremor assassin and, well, this happens. If any arrow from the Dremora hits me, I get killed. So my best bet is to use the pillars in the room as a cover and that damage the mage, hoping that his death will kill the summoned Dremora. Luckily, I brought with me some magica potions and I managed to win this fight. I take the documents that I was looking for and I only have to kill some guards to get out of the embassy. Now I have to rescue Esbern, a guy hiding in some sewers. The first section is easy, there are only a couple of enemies. Here I find that the Inferno is a bit too slow. It's a good spell if you have to attack someone strong, but having to cast it 2 times to deal damage is a bit too clunky, so I start using only Creeping Cold. In the second part of the sewers I try to clear out the elves, that are strong and have defensive magic. But then I remember I can simply walk past them ignoring everything in the area. I meet Esbern and we can simply walk towards the exit. The enemies won't follow us out here. Here I couldn't fast travel and I got attacked by Shavari. I don't remember this ever happening to me and I don't know if every other time I simply fast traveled away before she could get to me or if this is some random encounter. Maybe I'm making a fool of myself and this is well known, but I didn't expect to get surprised by the game after hundreds of hours. We get back and while we are talking about defeating Alduin, Sven comes down singing mumble rap and this happens. We will never talk about what happened again, and we head towards a cave where we can learn how to defeat Alduin. We can simply go to market by cart and then walk from there. We can ignore everybody outside by simply entering the cave and proceeding with the quest. Here we have to deal with some enemies, but I can simply sit back and let them do the job. We discover that we need a shout in order to defeat Alduin, so I go to the Greybirds that point me towards their master, a dragon living on top of the mountain. I shot at the mist and meet the old dragon. He tells me that I need an Elder Scroll in order to learn the shout needed to defeat Alduin. And now I can, finally, gain access to the College of Winterhold without using a prohibited spell. I just have to say that I'm looking for the Elder Scroll and shout. Now I can buy all the spells I want, providing I am at the right level, and I learn Thundercrack, a spell that deals damage at a close range with a loud noise. I tried doing some quests in the college, but I have to use a vanilla spell in the very first mission, so I gave up. I decided that I wanted to use more powerful spells, so I started training the instruction magic with Faralda. I obviously didn't need to do that in order to beat the game, but I wanted to have some fun with the mod. So I kept paying her to train me and then stealing my money back. It took a long time because for some reason she keeps talking to me. So I can't get out of her sight, thus losing the bonus to pickpocket that I have if she doesn't see me. Also, we got attacked by a dragon while I was doing this. I leveled Destruction to around 50 and I buy the Bolide spell. Bolide? Let me check. Apparently both are correct. I hate the English language. Anyway, the Bolide spell launches a meteoric rock that deals more damage the more it travels. Continuing with the quest, you don't actually have to ask around if you know that you have to talk to the mad guy in the ice cave, and I can go towards the location of the Elder Scroll. I tried to use the Bolide spell, but if you want to deal a good amount of damage, you actually have to be far from your enemies, and being far means it's very hard to aim. It's probably good against a big enemy that stays still, like a dragon, but that's not the case. I brought with me another spell that after a short period of time starts releasing small electric balls, but it costs a lot of magicka. It takes some time to start dealing damage, and it doesn't actually do a good amount of damage. This is just bad. This means that leveling up Destruction only made my enemies tougher, since now I am at a higher level, so the best choice is to simply run towards the end of the dungeon. This is always the best solution in Skyrim, and I traverse the Dwarven Ruin and Blackreach almost unscathed. Now I can solve a simple puzzle and I obtain the Elder Scroll, but there is one more upgrade I want to do before fighting Alduin. I sell all my worldly possessions in order to start training Destruction again, this time to level 75, allowing me to cast expert level spells that should be stronger and most importantly, cooler. I learned Lightning Bolt, and I could describe it, but I let the magic do the talking. With my new toy I go on top of a mountain and I read the Elder Scroll. Here I learn the shot that I need to defeat Alduin, and I have to fight Alduin himself shortly after. I am pumped to fight him with my new spell. I double hand cast it and... oh no, it doesn't deal any meaningful damage and it uses most of my magicka. This is going to be a tough one. Also, for some reason, a lot of time I cannot cast it even if I aim to the ground at his feet. I don't know why, but I guess it's because his hitbox is too big, and even if I fail to cast it, it still drains my magicka. I decide that it's not worth it, and I start to use Creeping Cold again, basically the only actually useful spell so far. I have to burn through a lot of food and potions because he's a pretty high level, but I managed to win. He flies away because he doesn't feel like dying. Now it's almost over. I simply have to stop a civil war, and that's easily doable by sitting bored at a chair. Then I have to trap a dragon and convince him to bring me to Alduin. I tried to do some fancy out of bound to gain more money in order to buy even cooler spells, but I know that I simply resort to Creeping Cold, so I go straight to the end. I can trap the dragon without breaking a sweat. I release him and we go together to Skull Daphne, the final dungeon. Here I can freeze some enemies and ignore some other ones. I have to defeat a Drogr that serves as a boss, but he can be frozen, so it's easy. I get out, sprint past the priest, and I am in Sovngarde. Here I have to prove that I'm worthy by defeating him battle soon. I try to win like a cool kid with lightning strikes, but it simply isn't worth it, so I start using Creeping Cold and after he's frozen a couple of times, he's defeated. Now I can rally the heroes. We shout at the mist and we call down Alduin to fight. Now, with them taking the damage, Bolide is actually pretty good. It's probably still worse than Creeping Cold, but I wanted a change of pace for once. We defeat Alduin, and I want to give him the final blow with a lightning strike, but in perfect fashion for this run, it doesn't work and I have to use Creeping Cold. Also, I got knocked away for some reason. Anyway, I'll say that you can beat Skyrim with only Apocalypse spells. If you want to download the mod, you can find it in the description below, and if you did this challenge yourselves, let me know how it went in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like or even subscribe. I'll see you next time. Well, you'll see me. See the video at least. Why do I always mess up the outro?